Little Ghost is more highly rated on IMDb than I had expected. I watched this kind of expecting something that felt dated and cheesy, but still quite fun. That's exactly what I got, but I wouldn't say it's a great film. But it's got 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb. Are they nostalgia ratings, or do people genuinely still think this is a good film? I'd love to know your thoughts if you've seen this film and kind of which of the categories you fall into, or do you fall into my category where you didn't mind watching it, but unless you have the nostalgic feel for it or a particular penchant for ghost-based fantasy, children's films, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as being on your priority list. This was released in 1997, definitely feels like it was released in 97, directed by Linda Shayne, written by Jamie McLaughlin and Timothy Michaels. And the premise is quite complex, actually. It's got a lot going for it. The description is as follows from IMDb. While on location in a spooky Romanian villa with his Hollywood big shot mother and her dorky boyfriend, 12-year-old Kevin befriends a Renaissance era girl ghost who helps him cause unrest on the set. Kevin is played by Jameson Baltes, or Baltes, and I thought he gave a great performance. He's a great protagonist. He's very likable. He acts like a 12-year-old. I thought his behaviour and his decisions and his mannerisms were all very believable. The parents, the characters, the Hollywood actor and her very questionable boyfriend, their characters remained true throughout. I thought they were well acted. They fitted their stereotypical profiles. The character writing here is all very good. The action on screen I found to be quite juvenile. And you could say, well, this is a family-friendly film. But there are two kinds of children's films. There are those that the whole family could benefit from, such as, off the top of my head, Halloween Town. Halloween Town is something that appeals to people of pretty much any age. Whereas Little Ghost, I feel like, is for a slightly younger target audience and maybe not quite as mentally engaging or fascinating for an older audience. I may be alone in that thought, I don't know, but I just found the narrative itself wasn't that interesting. The Renaissance era girl ghost, she doesn't look like a ghost, but she does have magical powers, or I guess supernatural powers is the better word there. And yeah, that was quite interesting. As a character, I thought she was relatively fascinating and interesting to look at. Maybe not the most interesting ghost, but I liked the way she interacted with Kevin and, the adventures that they built up. Again, maybe not the most interesting part of the narrative, but I think they did it well enough. There wasn't anything about that character that I thought was dull or underdeveloped, just maybe not quite as interesting as she could have been. So it's not a bad film if you are younger, if you're just getting into ghost-based films. As I said, it's well written with the characters' actions and the acting all very believable. The scenery is beautiful. This villa is really gorgeous to look at. I just feel like the actual development of the narrative wasn't that interesting. So visually, although it feels dated, I think it's pretty well done for the 90s. But the narrative wasn't that gripping. If you love this kind of film in general, give it a watch. I think you'll enjoy it. But if it's not necessarily your kind of thing on a general basis, you might not get that much out of it. I'd say take Little Ghost with a pinch of salt.